What is up, everybody? Welcome back to yet another episode of the Onwards Forward Evolution podcast. Before we get started, I just want to remind you, head to our website, get you some Onwards gear, whether it be a t-shirt, a pillow, some beautiful high-quality artworks, mugs, hats, beanies, sweaters, sweatshirts, you name it, it's there for you. And it's more than just objects and material things that we don't need. Onwards, it's all about the vibration it gives off. Every time you wear a t-shirt or see a poster or put your head on this comfortable pillow, you will always be reminded to always be moving forward, always be striving to improve, to learn, to grow, to chase that ultimate version of yourself. That's what Onwards is all about. We are moving forward together. So make sure you head to our site, get you some merch, support the movement, support the channel, and become part of the Onwards Collective. And with that, let's get into the podcast.
It's just not a vibe.
It's crazy having long hair like that, because that's so much energy that builds up. I grew my hair out for 5 years, and it was down to, like, my chest. And it's funny because I look at pictures now when I had long hair, and I'm like, what the fuck was I thinking?
Nah.
Shit looks crazy.
I love it. I can't wait to get back. The reason I'm glad I cut it was for, like, a particular reason within, like, my fraternity.
Okay.
So it was a beautiful, like, cleansing.
Yes.
And I was looking to already do that. So I was like, I need to, like, cleanse. And for some reason, everyone, like, it was like, why is it hair? It's like hair is a particular cleansing. Like, for some reason, when you cut it. So when I cut it, it just felt beautiful. Now it's like, okay, I want to rebirth and, like, rebrand it. So
yeah,
coming
dude.
back. Yeah.
For me, same idea. It was like I'm walking around with 5 years worth of energy on my head. And when you cut that off, it's like very cleansing. You're like getting rid of, because hopefully you're not the same person you were
100%.
a year ago, let alone 5 years ago. So I had changed and grown so much in that time where it was almost like I'm walking around with this energy that's from an obsolete version of me. So because I was thinking about it for a while, and I talked to my friend Becca, and she was like, if you're going to cut it, maybe cut it in the spring, because springtime, things are coming back. It's like a rebirth season. So sure enough, COVID hit March, beginning of April. I finally cut it, and it was like,
oh, so you were part of the whole
brand new.
The gang of
doing
something to their hair because of
the COVID haircuts.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. It took 3 haircuts back to back to back. Thank God my mom's a hairstylist, and we did it right over here.
Okay.
Because that would have been a pain in the ass if I had to go to the barbershop 3 times, 3 days in a row. So we cut it. Because, when you have a bun, certain parts of your hair have to be a certain length, or else it doesn't connect, and the shit just looks silly. It's
my
dangling.
back is definitely longer than anywhere else.
Right. So the back, she cut it, and the back wasn't long enough, so I'd still be able to put it up, but all the stuff in the back of my neck would just dangle. It looked dirty.
Yeah.
So it took 3 haircuts to get here, but it definitely felt like a huge energetic weight was lifted after I cut the hair.
I didn't get 5 years, but that 3, I started legit like the week before my freshman year of college. And I was like, I'm just growing it out. And it was just the top, though. It wasn't all of it. So then going 3 years, and then it got to that point of like going through like the process of my fraternity. And then like that day I was really like, yo, I'm ready to cut this. And it was like that moment. And then doing it was just
it's liberating.
Yeah,
when you looked in yourself in the mirror the few days after that.
Yeah. Everyone, like, I'm in a Lambda Upsilon Lambda fraternity, and I was like the founding Hermano was at like Rowan University. Like we brought it to campus, so it was like something already new. So then when my girlfriend like saw me, she was just like, "Yo, this is nuts!" Like seeing it, like I had no facial hair, nothing. It was all gone, and everyone was like, "Malik, like you look amazing with it." And it was a newfound energy because I lost weight because of a new beginning, but it was transforming you into a new being, and it was probably like when I do this, I want to grow it out for like. Probably go like 5 or so years and like let it go, and then like when I get to like another milestone in my life, and then let it go. And the way it's adding up now is hopefully I'm in a doctoral program and finishing up at that point, and that will be rewarding. Right, point right there.
Yeah, bro, it's a big deal. It's when Busta Rhymes cut his dreadlocks off. They did a whole photo shoot, and it was like this huge deal when he cut his hair, because it becomes part of your identity. When I looked in the mirror days after cutting my hair, I was like, who am I? Like, what is this?
My uncle, like, I remember being young and hearing my uncle talk about he had dreads, and then he just went bald with it. And they were talking about, like, he buried it in, like, the beach. And, like,
I buried my hair.
Yeah, and I was I couldn't. I remember being a kid. I'm like, why? Like, why are you doing that?
It
and
sounds
he was like,
so
you don't
dumb.
Understand at one point. And now I understand, like, this spiritual sense behind it. It's so crazy.
Yeah, that's interesting, because my friend my friend Sammy was like, "Oh my God, you cut your hair, like that's crazy. It looks so good. What did you do with the hair? Did you donate it?" And I was like, "No, I didn't, because we kind of cut it up into it was if I just chopped it off once, we could have donated it, but because it was 3 haircuts, we couldn't." But she said, "Oh, well, you should bury it." And I was like, "What?"
Yo, I still have my hair I have it like braided up somewhere in the house, so I have to find. I should do that.
Yep, because the whole idea, I guess, is if you bury it, it kind of goes back into the earth and it gets kind of like recycled in a interesting way. So
I'm gonna take notes on that.
Yeah, so it's buried. It's buried in the backyard somewhere.
Oh, I like that. I'm gonna do that. I like that idea. I'm gonna do like a ceremonial type thing. I still haven't even buried it. It's kind of still hanging there. So it's kind of like that like subficial like lingering thing that I haven't completed yet. I like that. Yeah. I'm gonna go home with that one. Yeah,
dude. Right. So everybody, this is my homie Malik. He's here this morning. Yeah. You moved to Morristown. How old were you? We were friends in middle school, and then he moved away, and here we are today.
It was like upper elementary school. Yeah. Yeah, it was like third or fourth grade.
Fourth, fifth, sixth grade.
So I think I moved there in like third grade, around third grade, because it was so weird. Like every like 2 years, I was moving to different schools. Like growing up with my dad, it was just that, but not military or anything like that. Just moving around, and then it got to that point where I got to Morristown, and like my little brothers were going there, and I was going there, and I was making friends, and it was just a I wouldn't even say like a great experience. It was definitely like, when I think about it now, I look back and there's some like little nuances that I'm just like, wow, like that actually happened at that school, and I can see it now. And when I got to, I think it was like a week into 6th grade when we went into 7th grade or whatever, and my dad just told me like, yeah, you can't go back to school. And I was just like, what? I was like, nah. I was like, yo, I'm not moving again. I can't move again. And I think, but like, I love the fact that I did that, because I'm friends with anyone. Yeah. I could be friends with any single person, because I moved so much. I moved in different economic backgrounds, different people. I went from, Pensacola and Cherry Hill to Palmyra to Morristown. Like, all those different schools and like different socioeconomic backgrounds that made me who I am. So I can be friends with anyone. It doesn't 100%. Matter. So it was that day I remember I was like, yo, I'm not moving ever again, Dad. Like, I can't do this again. Like, I can't move around. He's like, yeah, like, don't worry, you'll stay in this location. But it was really a mistake that my stepmom had made, like filling out like a lunch form and didn't include my name, so they forgot. Yeah. So like they were like, yeah, you gotta get out. But it was just like my dad like kind of told me like, yeah, like they were already looking to see if we were living there and making sure that we actually lived there. And it kind of sucked, because it was like, where would I have been like academically if I stayed in Morristown for sure? Because it's definitely not the same academics when you go from Morristown to Palmyra. But I don't think I would have made it as far if I stayed in Morristown, to be honest with you. Like, it's kind of weird to say, but I don't think I would have been held at a different standard. And that's a lot like we see in that's what we want to really, that's really what made me want to go into education, was our teacher. I don't know, our 5th grade teacher, Mr. Brian, I think his name was, a history teacher. He's the reason why I wanted to become a teacher. So like, wow. I wish I could see him to this day. Like, I think about it all the time.
I love that.
Yeah. It made me want to become a teacher. Like, you don't even know, like, seeing a black male role, like, as a teacher. Like, that's probably the only black teacher I've ever had. Yep. So, like, and I didn't even, as a kid, you don't put that into your head, like, thinking about that. Right. So, I wanted to go in education because of that, and that was the reason. It was kind of wicked to see, like, that change within me, and, like, that standard of Morristown kind of held me in, like, I got put into a separate classroom. I wasn't the smartest kid in Morristown. Like, I did the bare minimum. I wasn't a studious kid, but like I love, bro. Yeah, like I mean, even to this point now, I always say I'm not the smartest, but like when I talk to my siblings, like the school is not for them, and like I'm the always person like I believe in education. I love higher education. Totally, but I understand education not for everyone, but at a certain level, you got to finesse it, and that's why I believe it's a system of finesse.
It's work smart, not harder. Because let's face it, the modern day school system that we were brought up in was created during the Industrial Revolution because we needed factory workers. And now with technology and automation, like we don't need that as much. So it's almost like, because I would love to open up an alternative school someday, Onwards Academy. I had a dream one night where I had this alternative school where it included, because I learned more about myself and my role in the universe 5 years outside of 12 years of public school after I graduated and experimenting with psychedelics and kind of making my own path. And discovering things like meditation, mindfulness, different ways of health and wellness, and certain books to read. And I would love to someday have a school where those things are kind of included in the curriculum early on.
that's so crazy. Like it's weird to think about how like the universe brought us back together somehow.
Totally.
But that's my like end goal is opening up a high school, and that's my only like one of my biggest dreams. You know, like the reason I'm even getting my master's right now is to just the next step to get my doctorate, and the end really to where I want to be at is to be a president of a university and like see that different perspective of how I can lead students who like are like me, who came from these backgrounds, and how they can make it. And then end all be all is to open up a high school. I know professors who actually open up charter schools in Camden and seeing that like they're seeing the fruition of what they wanted to do, seeing it come to life, and then teaching those students who went to their high school. Like just thinking about that, it's like, okay, now I know the curriculum we need to do. I know what these students need, and seeing that, especially when I was at Morristown, I was kind of I was just on a panel like 3 weeks ago in like Riverton that they do like family members and friends. We do like they do like a panel things of like different topics, and it was like education. And we talked about, I brought the held at a standard, and a lot of the kids I went to high school in Palmyra, we were held at a standard. We're like, yeah, we got A's and B's, but like we were never like brought to here. Like, you know what I mean? Like we weren't told to take AP courses. We weren't told to do this. So it's like
your potential wasn't fully maximized.
100%. And that's when I look back and like, luckily my girlfriend, who was like AP everything, went to community college for free, went to Rowan for free, is an engineer. And it's like me, I was just like, I'm gonna skate through as long as I get good grades, get into college. And I was met with that, not getting into any university. I was met with getting rejection letters from every college, and I was left with like that spring. And that spring before we leave for school, I was like, I don't know how I'm gonna get to school, but I have no other way to get there. Like I'm not a community college kid. Like I know I need to get to a university. That's what's gonna make me who I am. And luckily, I kicked the ways in a row, and I got into a program called like EOF, so it's called like Equal Opportunity Funding, and they provide like funding for students who come from like low income families, and they do like a 6-week kind of like college ready prep thing. So you're taking like your reading, your math, and you're doing a writing, and then you're doing like a 3-credit course. So like it's getting you prepared for what college is going to be. And then once you get through that, then you're admitted into Rowan University. But I went to there's a satellite campus in Camden and Glassboro, and I went to the Camden one. And I was like, all right, I got to go through this. I remember being so upset. My dad's like, yo, just get through this 6 weeks. Get onto campus, and then like you'll live in. You know how like everyone's seeing you like, where are you moving to? Where are you going to live at? Where? And then we look back like 5 years later, and we're like, that was the dumbest thing I could have ever done. And, like all my loans is housing now. So like, no, I just feel so bad for those people. Like luckily that was like that momentum, and then that's where the switch came when I had like counselors who like spoke to me every week about like, what do you want to do in life? And I talked to them, and then like they pushed me. They opened up another like stratosphere in me. Like
that's important.
You can go farther. Like don't just think about being a high school teacher. Like you can be different. You could work in higher education and do that.
That's the beautiful thing that separates college from like public schools, is because in my 12 years of public school, I skated by. I finessed my way through.
100%.
Because I just didn't really give a shit about what they were teaching. They weren't really helping me recognize my potential and what I truly wanted to do. Until, and I'm glad to bring you back to this, you meet that one teacher. All it takes is that one teacher to change everything for you. For you, it was Mr. Bryan. For me, it was Mr. Falvell at Morristown High School. It was a graphic design teacher who... And all of this stemmed from that one dude. So, but that's what's cool about college is you kind of, if you are lucky enough to figure out a general idea of what you want to do and the direction you kind of want to go, once you're in that realm, your advisors, your professors, the people in the group, you're all on the same wavelength. So it's almost, I did really well in college because I was taking things and involved in classes that I was super interested in. And therefore I wanted to work for it and be fully there versus the public school where I was like, we'll figure it out. And then, but I'm so glad I had that one teacher senior year because I don't know what I'd be doing with my life right now.
That's why I want to push people to go even farther into their education, like go for a master's degree, because it kind of pushes you. Like I'm lucky that I am in a program that I work with. Like since I wanted to work in higher education, it's your subject. You know how like you're in your undergrad, you're taking those prereqs, and you're just like, why am I taking a math class? And I'm doing
seriously, bro. Jesus Christ.
Yeah. So you're taking all
that was literally me. I didn't take a math class for 5 years. They're like, you have to take a math class.
Yeah. I took a math class, like the easiest math class at Rowan. Failed it with a D. I thought I passed. I was like, yo, I got a D. I'm done with math for the rest of my life. They're like, no, like you have to get a C. And I was like, OMG, like I can't do this. Legit took the whole year. My grade was like a 68. The final comes around. He was like, no, my grade was even worse because he was like, even if you get 100 on the final, you won't pass.
Oh my God.
And I was like, all right, like I'm gonna have to take it again. Like I don't know what to do. And my girl was like, dude, just study. You're behind all. get what you need to get and just get out. Legit. You know how hard it is to get 100? I got 100 on it.
Oh,
and this guy was such an asshole. He was just like,
awesome.
here you go, man. Like, go. And I was like, yo, forget it. I'm out. Like, I'm gone.
Right.
But being in, like, my master's program, I'm around, like, a lot of education. Like, I'm around those who are teachers and who, like, see the impact. And, like, we have, like, those deep discussions about the topics that you care about.
Yeah.
So it's like, now you're in your subject matter. Now you care about what you're learning. So you invest in more in what you're learning.
Right.
So it's okay to write those long papers because it's not long. Now it's like, I can't even fit enough into these
Right.
papers.
Yeah.
So, like, that's
dude.
what you get to.
That's what kind of upsets me about those math classes in particular, because it's like this silly thing where it's like, if you don't take this class and you don't do well, you don't get this piece of paper. Like, when it really has nothing to do with what you're trying to do. And in that regard, it doesn't become about learning in higher education. It becomes more about, you need to do your homework and get a good grade, or else you can't do this or that and you won't be able to move on. So it's almost like you're not even learning anymore. You're just like, you're basically a slave to that class.
Finessing it.
And you have to, like, kind of do whatever you can, like wasting your life force energy and stress, because I'm sure that was really stressful for you and you were like not really sure how you're going to do it. And like, that's no way to live, bro. You're paying all this money to be stressed the fuck out and unhappy.
So
that's crazy.
Like,
you can't be doing that.
I think that's why that's the one thing about college that, like, it's really, like, when I go talk to students, I'm like, it's not what you learn in the classroom. It's all about what you learn outside the classroom. That's what college is really about. That's what it boils down to.
100%.
For the first time you're out of your house, you're learning how to be independent. You're learning what you like to do. What times do you like waking up? What time? It's like the little minuscule things that you learn to do that, like, kind of make college for what it is. Because in the class, you're not learning. You're learning to pass a test.
Exactly.
And that's the part of the education system that, like, I want to change.
Yeah.
Like, I can't tell you, I was a history major. I don't know nothing about history. Like, I got, like, my GPA was like a 3.5.
There you go.
I did well in college, but, like, I just learned how to pass a test.
Exactly.
Nothing stayed with me.
Right.
Nothing stayed with me besides the podcast I watch on YouTube.
Yep.
All that information, all that, like, weird information that I have inside me is because of what I invested my learning into. Now, now I'm in my master's program. Everything I'm learning, I love it. So I know so much just about the education, things like that.
That's good.
Yeah.
I think it was Mark Twain who said, don't let your schooling get in the way of your education.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Because we live in an amazing time where anything you could possibly ever want to know, for the most part, could be found in the palm of your hand, whether it be on your phone or your computer. It's the information age, and it's a great responsibility that we have.
I have a lot of friends who are, like, entrepreneurs and who are doing really well for themselves, and I love to see that perspective of it, but I would never knock the education system. I would never knock going to school. I would never knock that for anyone. But again, if you choose not to go to school, it's like, all right, what is your passion? Like, I have a younger brother who I'm like me and my dad gets on him heavy. Like, my dad is just like we were at Thanksgiving. The first thing he says to him, like, what are you thinking about life? And brother's like, I'm not thinking about anything. So my dad's like flipping out. I'm like, dude, like, it's gonna take a little bit longer to figure out what he wants to do. Mind you, he went away to school and school wasn't for him. Yeah. But, like, find out what is your passion? Like, what do you want to follow, and go for that. Like, my other little brother, he's at Rutgers Camden doing animation. All he did was draw. All he did was do things like that. My dad's like, yo, here's animation, go do it. It's like my dad didn't push us to our dreams, but he once you have a dream, I'll push you in this direction. Like, you want to go become a teacher, here's a direction to become a teacher. Yeah. You want to draw, here's animation. So, like, they're doing those things. And, like, I see that creative side of my brother, and the only reason he's struggling right now to graduate is those core classes. Yeah. It's so frustrating to see that he has to struggle to get through that, to get to where he has to get to. And it's like, it really sucks, especially when I go into, like, I did a lot of, those college, what it was called, like, when students come in high school, it's like the college things and it's different college.
Yeah, college like fairs. The career day or something.
Like, so I would do a lot of college fairs in, like, Camden. We would go to different charter schools and stuff like that. And every kid came up to me and was like, yo, do you guys have football? Do you have basketball? And, like, it hurt my heart because I'm just like, I was once that kid. Like, I thought my only way out of, like, Palmyra was through sports. And, like, junior year in high school, I realized, like, yo, I'm 5'10". Like, I'm not the biggest kid in the world. Like, I have a best friend who's, like, not a best friend, but a close friend of mine who's in the NFL right now. Like, he made it. You know what I mean? Like, and I love that. But it's like, I knew my way out was in sports. And, like, those kids I see, I'm just, oh, man, like, I wish I can get to you somehow to understand, like, there's different ways out. Not even going to college. Yeah. But there's different ways out of what you're in right now.
That's why it's so important at a young age, when their minds are still developing, and when they're, like, when you ask a little kid, like, oh, what do you want to be? And they're like, I want to be a firefighter or an astronaut. Like, that's when you got to really help the kids realize their full potential, is at this young age, where you can incorporate things like meditation and mindfulness. And I think it's really important to focus on the arts, too, at a young age, because that really helps kids express themselves and deal with things, and kind of, it's self-discovery, really. So it breaks my heart too, dude, when you hear these high school kids and they're like, "Would you guys have sports?" Because they think that that's their only way out. When if the system was designed in a different way, that 12 years leading up to that moment, they could have really been focusing on what it truly is. If it is football, great. Yeah. If it's not, okay, it's I want to be a teacher or I want to be an engineer or whatever. At least I was able to build this foundation around that. But also, it's weird trying to have these 18-year-old kids make these incredible. It's really a financial decision at an 18-year-old kid.
You're making that. Do I go into debt?
Yeah.
Like, and it's so crazy to think like three pieces on what you just said. Like, we go from being in high school. I saw this post. Like, we go from asking to use the bathroom to not owe $20,000 in debt. Yeah. And it's like that's a huge leap in our world right now. It's the biggest leap. Like, we had to ask to use the bathroom. Now you're asking me like what I want to do for the rest of my life in a matter of 2 months. Yep. And like that's the craziest thing. But like going on like starting younger. My girlfriend's family, we're really close with them. Like, they have a kid, and she like is very like holistic in her ways, and like she loves like the earth, things like that. So she found this thing called nature school. So like her kids go to like a nature school to where like her daughter's like 2, never has shoes on. It's always out and like cool. Feels the ground. Like and like there's like that side of me who's like, yo man, what is this shit? Like, are we actually learning in this school? But it's like they are. We're walking to the park 100%. Yesterday, and she's like tree, this, that, and she's naming the nature, and it's like. And I took that like deep perspective. I was like, yo, she is learning. Like that's learning. No matter what it is, just because you're not learning numbers, like you're learning. So it's like attacking my own like view on the education system. I'm like, no, like that is okay. Like this is not some hippie way of learning. Like it's okay for them to go through that. Like, do I believe in the classroom setting? No, but I believe in learning somehow. Yeah, like I don't believe in like we have to sit in a desk and like look at a board and be like get lectured. I don't believe like that works, and because that didn't work for me.
I agree,
how many
100%.
Students can say that doesn't work for them? So many students. But do I see the education system changing? Yes, because I see like the younger generation, like us, we're going into the like when I was just ready to be a high school teacher, I would go into these classrooms like. We don't sit like that anymore. Like when we go into a classroom, you see there's a lot of breakout groups. There's a lot of learning with one-on-one learning. There's not like a teacher understands like I can't get to the student, but that student can get to the test. Yeah. So like a lot of that is going on in these classrooms, and it's like collaboration. I'm like, okay, it's definitely changing. But then we still have the overarching theme of testing, and like that just makes you want to like shoot myself. I can't stand standardized testing. Yeah. Like, that's just but it's. I have to think of another way how you can grade the education of a public school. Like, you know what I mean? Like, that's how funding comes. That's a lot of those things. So maybe one day I'll come up with a different way of how we can grade that and still proceed with that. It's so different.
I like what you said about the classroom and how the classroom is such a weird environment in terms of like, this is where you have to learn everything, especially as like a little kid. I remember being in, elementary school where we were in the same room all day, and we would learn, other than like lunch and recess, but like, okay, 10 o'clock we're going to learn math, and then 11 we're going to learn science. And you're in the same environment learning about all these things and expecting, even in psychology and in, it's important to associate certain, I'm reading Atomic Habits right now, and in the book, James Clear talks about if you want to change your habits or do certain things or change your behavior, there's visual cues in your environment that will trigger those behaviors. So like, for example, if you work from home, especially now during COVID, it's not smart to work in your bed. Yeah. Because then you're going to start to associate your bedroom with only working, and it's going to fuck with your sleep. Yeah. Vice versa, like if you work out in your office, you're only going to associate your office with working out, not really being productive work. So it's like, when you're in these classrooms and you're associating all these different things with this one space, it can kind of mess with you on like a more subconscious level. That's why I love the idea of the nature school where these kids can be outside and learn from nature, because that's where we came from, dude. That's where humans came from, is being connected with nature and outside and bare feet on the ground. I was listening to Terrence McKenna talk last night, who is a key figure in the psychedelic movement, but also he was like a scientist and was really smart about shit. And he was talking about this exact topic where he's like, if how did he word it? He's like, if you want to learn, don't be in a classroom. He's like, if you want to learn something, look at a waterfall or look at a roaring ocean. He's like, that's where you can learn a lot of lessons about life and stuff. And it was just like a really interesting perspective, because it definitely goes. It's way bigger than the idea of a classroom.
Yeah, I like it's so weird to even look at. Like, I remember just like finals week and just sitting there with like all my frat bros. We're in a library for like 10 hours, 12 hours a day. We're going till 3 in the morning.
Yeah.
And just being like, and just crashing and being like, bro, there's stars in the sky. And everyone just laughing at me.
Yeah.
I'm like, dude, there's stars. Like, there's stuff up there. And like, but we're so focused on passing this test. I'm like, why does this matter right now? And like, that's when I would click back. I'm like, all right, let me just bang this out. Just get out of the way. Like, I'm overstressing it too much. And I'm like, yo, there's stars. Like, there's things up to, like, I don't have to focus. Like, why am I just focusing all this time? But it's like what we choose as like humans to like put up kind of blind. Like, we kind of blind our own way of making out. And like, the environment is such a key thing, and like the environment we live in, the environment of who we're around, and like that's kind of like the area of study that I'm going into. With like I really want to study in my doctoral work is like how the environment like impacts us. Like when you see all these students who like me, like I grew up in Philly as well, and everyone I grew up with from Philly didn't graduate from high school, and is now like one of my friends just got his first job ever, or like GameStop or something like that. So it's like I'm the only one that like graduated high school, went to college, and I was about to graduate in higher ed. So it's like we all came from the same environment, but what was the difference in that environment? And it's like I just like read this like dissertation. It was like the microsystem or that microsystem within your circle is those you go home to. So I went home to a dad who has a master's in business.
There you go.
I went home to just a dad, period.
Yeah.
And like that's the difference.
Dad
and,
who
like,
supports you too.
Yeah, exactly. So it was that's what I had, and like that environment is what pushed me to do that little thing. And like if you see a lot of those students who were like who dropped out of high school. Like, they dropped out of high school. And I'm like, what do you mean you dropped out? I couldn't understand how, like, they chose to drop out of high school. So it was like my environment impacted me to push further. Just because at school I was held to the standard, but at home I wasn't. Yeah. That's the difference. And those kids, like, they had parents who were like, yo, you can go work at Amazon and make $15 an hour. Why don't you just do that? Why would you go to school? Right. And I was even in college with certain kids who were like, their parents were angry at them for going to school, and now they were fighting against their parents to go to school instead of working to help support at home. So it's like, what do we have to do? Like, it's like we're putting in so much of a position that like our environment dictates like how things go, unless you choose to like kind of jump out of that bubble and be like, no, like I have to kind of like either like you read a book or like you watched a podcast or something that like got you out of that like mentality to push you further. Because there were so many obstacles that could have tagged me and sit any other way, but really, if it wasn't my dad being that place, I don't know where I would have been right now. Like, it was that figure of like pushing me to like the higher level. Of course, it was rough, like having that dad who was like, yo, you got a B plus, it should have been A, or why'd you get an A? It should have been A plus. So it's like, yo, I can't do nothing right. And then when I found out, I'm like, yo, dad, what'd you get in high school? He was like, C's. And I was like, then why the fuck are you angry at me right now? Like, why? I'm doing the best I can. He was like, why would I hold you at that standard when you're supposed to be here? Why would I hold you at an average standard? And I was like, that makes sense. Because why would I ask you to do bare minimum? Right. And it was like always that like type of thing. But it's the environment. It boils down to that environment. Like, that's the perspective of what I want to change. I want those students to see that like there's more to life. Like, there's so much 100%. More to life. And like people talk about like I was never a traveling person. Like, I didn't care about like travel. I'm like, why do I need to travel? Like I'm here. Like I don't want to go anywhere. Yeah. But then it was legit my girlfriend. My girlfriend's Ecuadorian, who like senior in high school we started dating, but we weren't dating yet at that point. We started dating at the end of our senior year, and like she left in like December, like around this time. And I'm like, where's she at? And like she came out, I was like, where were you at? She was like, I was in Ecuador, like I was in like a beauty pageant, but like we raised money, like I won, like she's like the queen of her town or whatever, like that's that, right? Dope. Like it's like the queen and like queen of little Ecuador, but they did so much, like they brought money like to the town, like they gave back. And I was like, what do you mean you went to Ecuador? Like it's school right now. She's like, yeah, but I had to do things. So it's like it opened my eyes to so much. Like going to New York to me was just like, oh, I'm in a whole nother world right now. Like this is nuts. So like kids don't get that, man. Like I want them to see that, dude. Like the stuff that's out there just will amaze you, man.
It really will. Travel's really important, and I'm so grateful that I came from an environment where my parents wanted us to travel and experience different culture and see what is out there and what could be attained. So I'm super grateful for it because it definitely helps shape you, being around different cultures and seeing really what's out there and the beauty. Because one of the saddest things to me is seeing people who are born in one space and they stay there their entire lives and they never leave and they never experience.
That's my biggest fear is complacency. Like that's a fear.
Well, it's comfort. It's comfort is a killer. But the idea of being born somewhere and staying there your entire life, the whole earth is your home. Yeah. So never leaving one area is like the equivalent of never leaving your bedroom.
Yeah.
You got to explore. You got to see what's out
crazy,
there.
yeah.
You know, I just got a new car, and the intention with it is to take a bunch of road trips around the States and see what's out there. Because during COVID, it's kind of tricky. You know, I would love to go to Europe right now in Amsterdam, but it's kind of tricky. So it's important to get out there and see, because not only you don't only see what's possible for other people, but you can kind of see what could be possible for you in terms of environment. Because I was in Colorado in September, and it's beautiful out there. It's a
Me and my girlfriend were planning on taking a road trip out to Cali this summer.
There you go.
Like, I'm glad COVID kind of put the battery in my pack of, like, now that we can't travel, it's like, you know, when you always want to do something when you can't do something. So like, now that like no one can travel, like I'm just like, dude, I want to travel so bad. Like, even though I hate planes, I'm like, yo, I want to travel. I need to get this in me. Like, and that's what I want for my younger siblings who, like, they're still in high school. I have like twin little brothers who, like, I have mad siblings. So like, when I say sibling, you'll just hear different careers and whatever they're in. But like, I have twin little siblings, and like, they don't see it yet. Like, you know what I mean? Like, they don't see what else is out there yet. And like, I was grateful that, like, my dad and we went on vacations and things like that. But like, out of this country, like, I never could have thought like I should go out of this. I don't need to go out of this country. Like, and I was that homebody person. But like, again, like, I would go. I kind of go crazy when I'm in one place for too long. Because I I lived with separate parents. So like, I would be over at my dad's house, and I'd go to my mom's house where I had friends in Philly, friends in Jersey, and then I would be out all day. So it's like, I'm so used to like kind of always moving to where my girlfriend, she's been in the same house for a while. She's used to being a homebody. She's used to being, so I kind of get like, yo, I need to go somewhere. I need to do something. You know what I mean? So like, that is a key for like broadening just like your like awareness and things like that. And like, that's why like I kind of like, I don't know if you know who Nipsey Hussle is. Like, of course, that's just like, that's what has guided me so far, and like my like thinking, like opened my thinking of like the books he talks about. Like, and I just was like, yo, I need to get that book. And like, every like interview, I go back and like watch interviews. Like, as I'm like, I go to school in Maryland, so like I have like a 3-hour ride home. So like, I like just like, you know, let me listen to a Nipsey Hussle, and I take a key, and I'm like, okay, I need that. I need to go read. Like, now I'm reading, like, my little brother and me are reading like the 48 Laws of Power.
There you go.
And like, we're like, yo, every 2 laws, we'll just read 2 laws and we'll talk about it. Yes. So like, right now we have like the first 2 to read, and then we're just going to talk about it. So it's like, those things are like opening my mind to different things. Like, I don't remember reading a book that even I gave a fuck about in high school.
Exactly.
Like, at all. Like, I can't even tell you a book I finished. Like, I can't, dude. Like, and it's just so heartbreaking to say that. Like, these books, like these self-help books, like really what we need in these types. Like, why aren't we reading these type of self-help books? Like, you know what I mean? Like, and there's certain books that like kind of open my eyes to like certain. I forget, like maybe like senior year, like there was like a like I think it's a kite runner or something like that.
Dude,
like,
holy shit! I'm so fucking glad. This is crazy synchronicity. I'm so glad that you brought it to this topic.
Yeah.
Because I agree. And the only book that I read in my 12 years of public school that I can tell you for sure, cover to cover, was The Kite Runner.
Yeah.
Only book.
Yeah.
And then you get out of high school, and the first book I read was the first self-help book, I guess you could say, was Code of the Extraordinary Mind. If you're listening, go check that book out.
I'm gonna check that out.
Amazing book. And basically what he talks about is the importance of like questioning your reality, because we're raised and we're born in these culturescapes, and I learned this because it's what my mom learned, and it's because it was taught to her by her mom, and it's like these things that get ingrained in us just based off what some person said, and he calls those rules bullshit rules, and he talks about just like the importance of questioning your reality and doing what you think is right. And then there's a really great meditation in the book, and it's been a while since I read it, but that was the first book I read where I was like, holy shit, books are fucking awesome. And then from there on out, if you guys are listening, go, if you're on, my personal Instagram or the Onwards Instagram, there's a link where I have a Onwards book club, and it's just an Amazon list of like all these really great self-help books.
Check it out,
because they're so important, dude. And that's why it's people like Nipsey Hussle, because being in that position where you're uber famous and you have all this money and all this influence, yet he's still pushing things like the 48 Laws of Power, or he was really big on investing and finances and having assets. Like, he was really smart. And if you are listening to him as a fan and you look up to him, you want to learn about 48 Laws of Power. You want to learn about investing your income and buying assets. So that's why your diet, and I talked about this one of the last podcasts, your diet isn't just what you eat. It's also the music you listen to, the books you read, the podcasts you listen to. And that's where this like weird, almost like I think of somebody like Cardi B. All love to Cardi B. But think about the shit she's talking about in her songs. That's going to subconsciously influence the people that listen to it versus somebody like Nipsey Hussle or Russ rapping about Think and Grow Rich and the Four Agreements, like books that everybody should read and that
I'm starting to get into. I was always not like I wasn't on that band of like hate Russ. I never was that person. But I love Russ, and like he really just put out like a freestyle where he's like I like combine the mental of Nipsey and the Mamba, and like he combined them to make who he is. And like, I think he just put out a book too.
His book is great. Yeah, it's called It's All in Your Head. Get Out of Your Own Way. It's like, a great book.
I love like his message, but like the thing with like Nipsey Hussle was like that Victory Lap album. Like when he put that album out, I was like, let me just like I've always heard Nipsey Hussle. I'm not gonna lie, like I've always heard Nipsey Hussle here and Nipsey Hussle there, but I never like took the time to like listen to a project. Yeah, I have I have family who live down the street in Crenshaw from his from where he is, so they know who Nipsey is. Like they see him all the time. So like when he got killed, like I was with my girlfriend, I just started crying. She's like, what's going on? I'm like,
close
yo,
to
like
home.
Like he just got killed. Like they just killed him. Like they took one out. Like they took him out. Like. And like when they talk about like Pop Smoke, like I love Pop Smoke, and like when they talk about these people who like are in our genre who get killed, like they keep taking them out. Like, we had to stop
change makers.
Yeah, we had to stop taking these people out. And even recently with King Von, like that even hit. I'm like, dude, I just watched an interview with him. I'm listening to his music. Like, mind you, he didn't speak the best of all things. But that's just his environment where he was from. And like I even talked to people about that. I'm like, yo, you kind of put that energy out. It'll come to you. Like Snoop Dogg said like the best thing ever. He was like, the reason I truly think I'm still here is because I never rapped about someone killing me, and like I never put the energy out there, and like I was like, oh my god, like think about the generation he went from to Tupac to Biggie to Nipsey, like he's been through so many people that are close to him dying, and he was like, I've never put the energy out there, and like I don't want that to happen to me, so I don't speak about that. And it's like crazy to me to say that, and it's like the things you speak into the world like come to fruition in some way,
dude. That's so, like, all manifestation right there. Because when you said that, it brought me back to Mac Miller, and you can hear in his music, it's almost like self-prophetic. Like the words you speak and the thoughts you have will come back one way or another.
That's how XX was too.
There you go, and that's another change maker who I never listened to him. I didn't really hop on because I'm a huge '90s hip hop fan. Tribe Called Quest, Common, all
Public
those,
Enemy,
all that. That's like
I don't have it on right.
That's
Public Enemy.
That's my favorite era of music. So for a little bit, some of the mumble rap, I'm like, whatever. XXX, whatever. And then he dies, and I'm listening. I'm like, okay, there's some good shit here. He's speaking facts. And then I hear interviews with him where he's talking about your third eye and wake up and all this shit. And then he gets killed, and it's like these people who are kind of trying to wake people up. Unfortunately, John Lennon, these people, they get taken out. But in terms of like speaking thoughts into reality and using your words to create your, the world around you, I listen to Mac Miller, and he's fucking, he has a line, doing drugs is just a war with boredom, but they sure to get me. Or love me, that fentanyl, it numb me. And like, that's what killed him years later. And it's crazy to go back and listen to them say these things and then kind of see how it plays out. And you're like, holy fucking shit. It's like, it's almost like they knew.
Yeah. It's so creepy to see. Like Nipsey Hussle legit had like a song that like came out. I forget on who, maybe the Games album or like, where he said some lyric, like he's I'm gonna live through my name, but I'm gonna die in the streets, like, and like this is what like happens, and it's just like literally. I wish like I can't if I could ever take anything back, is Nipsey. Like I need the energy in my life, and like I like his energy. I love that it's gonna live on forever, and like my brain like is soon to be tatted on me. And on my graduation cap, it was the marathon must continue, and like that like mentality that he had like is what put me into the state of like, nah, I gotta keep pushing through. Like when I was kind of beautiful, dude. That's why like I always support like the That's what I'm saying. We haven't been like I haven't talked to you probably like since like the fourth grade, but like I've always supported like that onwards movement, that stuff like that. And, like I put your podcast out there, and it's
appreciate
like
that.
All these people like that are around me. Like it's just the energy that I need to have around me of like those type of people. And like when I was in like my senior year of high school, like during like that troubling time, like what's next in life. And I was left like in a bad predicament. Like, I was living at my aunt's house on the couch, and like my dad had just lost his house, and like my mom was living in Philly, and she was going through rough times. So it was like a really like rough time in my life, and I was left with like, dog, my mental is not there right now. Like what is next for me? And like somehow coming out of that and like not getting into any university, and like as a high school kid, like you're in those last when you're hearing people say like, oh, I'm going to Duke, or I'm going to UD, or I'm going to here, and you're like, yo, what's next for me, bro? Like, I can't keep living like this right now. Yo, like, I can't. Like, I'm going home and I'm sleeping like this, like a futon, like thing. Like, I hate reclining chairs to this day because like that's what I slept in. Like, but I was with my dad in those senses of like when my dad lost his house, I was with him, and like we packed the house up together, and like when my dad lost his car, we were there together. Like, and like that's what I hold close to me of like. I still have that trauma of like that's when like my girlfriend instills of like saving your money, like doing like backing off of like spending. I'm like, bro, you have no idea how much I wanted these sneakers. Like these sneakers, like do you know how bad I wanted like one?
Bro.
Do you know how bad I wanted to buy Chipotle? Do you know how bad I wanted to go with my friends? And it's like now I need to like back up, and it's like that trauma of like seeing those different, like seeing the way people live and like that want. Now it's like I don't need it. Now I can finally say like I don't need that. Like I don't need that like right now.
You're in an abundance mindset.
But that want, people don't understand like that's the want that would kill someone. That's the want that would go far enough, and like that is what drove me to like, yo, once I get into college, I'm gonna knock every door down and I'm gonna figure out how to get out of this. Did that. Now I'm in my master. Now I gotta knock down another wall. So it's like getting through those barriers is just what like kind of that whole Nipsey hustle, the marathon will continue. It's what's just driving me. That marathon will never stop.
Yes.
And
never.
Like the recent like audiobook that I listened to was like David Goggins.
Hell yeah.
And like, yo, that shit, I'm just sitting there.
He's a savage.
Dude, like I need to unlock that in myself. And I'm like, I'm searching for that key to unlock it. And he's just like, just do it. Like he's like his, I love his thing, like stop bitching. Like that's like the number one thing I always say. I'm like, yo, stop bitching, man. And I don't mean that in the sense of like the way like calling females this, but it's like just stop it. Like just go. Just do it. Just go do it. And that like having that like sector in my life is just I can't wait to unlock that key. Because once I unlock that key, it's a different world. Like and being around a lot of immigrants, and I heard an immigrant like say like he came here and like we were on his boat and he isn't even a legal citizen and we're on his boat. Wow. And I'm like, dog, like I was born here. I don't even have this shit right now. And he's like, yo, once I become a citizen, wait to like you have no idea what's gonna happen. I'm like, wait, what do you mean? He's like, if once I become a legal citizen in this world, like in this country, there's nothing that can stop me. I'm gonna have so much abundance of stuff. And I'm like, yo, man, like I was born here and I had this like I'm just like kind of putting on myself, and this dude is already shooting for the stars, and I'm kind of just here. But like that David Goggins, man, like
it's the mindset. David Goggins, if you don't know who he is, he was a Navy SEAL, I believe. But he was like really, really, really overweight and unhealthy and all this. Yet he was able to kind of turn his life around, lose the weight. Now he's like super fit. He does all these crazy marathons, ultra marathons, 24-hour pull-up records.
He did like I think he's the only one to go through like 3 hell weeks. Like in Navy SEAL training, like he went through like 3 hell weeks, and like man, because like something kept like he kept breaking bones. Like and he even broke bones while going through it, and he just like taped it the hell up and just keep pushing.
Especially in his feet.
Yeah,
he's like the perfect example of mind over matter and just having the strongest mind. Because if you on paper look at what he's done, you're like, that's impossible. You can't do that. But he's like, no, you actually can do it. You just have to, like Joe Rogan says, you got to conquer that inner bitch and just fucking do it.
Yeah, Joe, it's scary. It's you know what it is. Why people like look at those people like, oh, they're just crazy. It's like because he's in another stratosphere. Like you can't see where they're at right now. Like you can't even imagine what goes on in his head. And like it may be driving him crazy, but it's driving him crazy to success. Yeah, like that's what it's about. And it's like, yeah, I need that. I need that key. And like just I re-listen to that audiobook like all the time. And it's like I'll be at the gym, even when I'm at the gym and I'm on the treadmill. I'm like, damn, I don't feel like going for another mile and a half. And it's like, all right, you're bitching right now. You're bitching right now. And I'm like tapping to that David Goggins, and it'll push me through it. But it's like, there was some part of the book where he would just like you know, you'll tap into a point where like you'll be battling your own mind, but you'll push through and like you'll beat your own mind. Like when you start beating your own mind, it's when it now becomes fun. Yeah, and exactly. I can't understand of how he made Hell Week fun. Like he made it was a game for him. It was just like, yo, I'm gonna break you. I'm gonna break the instructors. That's who I'm gonna break. And like if you take that and like then he's like, take it into your own world. Like I'm gonna break life. Like that's what it's about. I'm gonna break life down and like make something of myself. Like being from where I'm from, it's like I don't get a lot of accolades for being in education. It's those, you know, it's of course it's the people who are in the NFL, people who are doing stuff like that. But it's like I don't look for like that like necessary attention or anything to feed. But it also is like building you into another stratosphere of like, okay, this is what's going to keep pushing me and wait on it. Just wait. Like I can't wait to beat life. Like, that's what like it scares me to this day. Like I can't wait to beat life. And like life is to me, it's a game. But you just got to beat it. It's scary though. It's really scary.
It's definitely scary, but comfort is a killer. Like we're saying earlier, it's like my friend Paul says, there's no comfort, there's no growth in the comfort zone, and there's no comfort in the growth zone, and there's no growth in the comfort zone. So if you look at the world's elite performers, whether it be elite athletes, David Goggins, or some of the world's most wealthy entrepreneurs, like they will all, you can find similarities in all of them, and one of those similarities is that they have an unwavering mind. They put themselves in uncomfortable positions because they know it's good for your brain to do hard shit. That's why I love doing yoga, because yoga's fucking hard to do.
Dog, I was at Lifetime and we did like vinyasa, like the hot shit.
Yep.
And like people think it's just going and just doing it. Bro, you have to get mentally prepared to even go in there. There's times where I would go in there not mentally prepared, and I would just walk the fuck out.
Yep.
And my girlfriend's like, where you go? I'm like, yo, it's hot. It's so many people in here.
Yeah.
I can't, like, I'm about to explore it now. I'll just walk out.
Yeah.
But then there's those days where I'm sitting in vinyasa, I'm like, dude, this is what I need right now.
Exactly.
And like, I can't wait to get back to that space. There's like vinyasa and like, what's the yoga where like you're just in like a stretch for 15 minutes? And I see that's to me that's the hardest yoga.
Bikram is the hot one. I think vinyasa is just the term they use at the very end to like let go of everything and reflect. But yoga, exactly, perfect example where it's fucking hard work and you're doing strenuous exercise and it's a fucking 105 degrees in there and you're sweating and you're like trying to hold this pose, you're like, oh fuck. Yeah. But if you just, that's like a great way to test your mental, because if you just hold through and you make it through the class afterwards, there's a huge reward that comes after that. And you're like, I fucking did that shit. Like, I'm proud of myself. And you're like, all right, what's next? It's like you build up this momentum of doing hard shit, or even something as silly as every day for the last week, I've been taking cold showers every day, ice cold showers, either just straight up, I'm jumping in the cold water, or at the end of the shower for the last minute or so, it's ice cold. And it's fucking hard to do, and I don't want to do it, but I'm doing it. And afterwards, my body is like so grateful. I feel the energy run through my body. It gets super warm. It's good for your muscles. But people don't want to do that shit because it's fucking cold and it's hard, and I don't want to have to deal with that.
Zone,
And it's just important to do that because it builds up momentum and it makes you more resilient. You know, just in 6 days of doing cold showers, every single time I do it, I'm able to withstand it longer and longer and longer because I'm like building up that foundation of like doing hard shit. Yoga's a good example. Even just like I'm gonna do a dopamine cleanse on Monday. So today's Saturday, on Monday. So basically, I'm not gonna be on any technology all day. I'm gonna embrace boredom. I'm gonna get outside my comfort zone. I'm gonna probably do some yoga, read, maybe go for a walk. I'm not gonna go to the gym because therefore I would have to bring my phone to listen to music because I can't be at the gym and not listen to my music.
I used to work out with someone that didn't listen to me. I'd be like, you're psycho.
Yeah, I don't trust you if you don't have headphones in the gym.
That's David Goggins too. He's like, you make it easier for yourself when you listen to music. He's like,
fuck.
so like, he challenges the not listening to music.
Oh no, he's right though. He's absolutely right.
Because that's what motivates you. He's like, no, your motivation should be in there.
And
I'm like, oh man, shit.
Savage.
Yeah,
that's a really good way. Because I'll switch between, like yesterday I listened to music, and then the day before that I'll listen to podcasts. But it definitely makes it, air quotes, easier.
Yeah.
Wow, that's profound. But yeah, so I'm going to do a dopamine cleanse and just not really be on technology and not do these activities because we're addicted to the dopamine that we get from
100%,
checking our phone. Dude, I've been sitting here itching because my phone has literally vibrated like 10 times.
My Apple Watch too.
I just want to look. You just want to look at it because you want to get that little hit of dopamine, these little chemicals. It's like short-term rewards. Yeah. So if you're able to kind of cut that off for a day and kind of give your receptors a break, and you start to attach more dopamine to like low dopamine things, like shit I have to do for onwards. I got all these heat transfer shits that I got to cut out, and it's like a pain in the ass, but like I have to fucking do it. I would it's interesting because it's even though it's more, I know it's more important for me. I would rather sit on my phone and scroll through Instagram for an hour because there's more dopamine attached to that, even though in my heart I know that that's more important. So it's like this addiction to short-term rewards. And that's why doing shit that's uncomfortable and putting yourself in uncomfortable positions is so good for you, because it's like this long-term rewards where eventually your reward will come. But here, right now in the moment, it fucking sucks. I'm sweating my balls off. I can't hold this pole. My muscles hurt. But the reward is always way better.
It's just grinding down. Like me and my girlfriend at Rowan, they have like they started like a whole like yoga movement. We have like an on-campus yoga thing, and she signed us up, and I like, she knows I didn't want to do this. Like, she knows I'm not like about this life, but like she's the one that, like, again, pushes me out of my comfort zone, pushes
Yeah.
me to these things. Like, yesterday I did not want to go for a walk. Something that's similar is going for a walk. I'm like, dude, I don't
Yeah.
want to go for a walk. Let's go run. Let's go work out.
Right.
She's like, no, let's go for a walk. And like, I went with her, and I'm like, all right, forget it. And it was a dope reward. Like, we went
Yeah.
and did that. But like, yeah, we signed up for this yoga thing where it was like all day, no talking, and we're there all day. Like, we're there all day, no talking, mindful eating. So it's like you're not talking when you eat, and it's like these like she just made sure like the
very
diet was
light foods.
100%. And it was walking mindfulness. So we like, and like I always see these people that walk around, like they're like walking around slow. They're like, so like every step you're taking into every step, and we did this for a whole day. And I'm like, yo, I can't take that. Like, I'm going crazy not being able to talk. But it was like we did that, and like we made it through the whole day, like doing yoga throughout the day, listening to her read different things, and like eating and just sitting there as one. Like, no one's talking, and it's a group of us, and like it created a culture of like, now we're all close. Like, now it's like, it's so weird how you can become like a pack like that quick. And like we went out for a walk, and it was just like walking slow and just walking around, like go to a tree, but it would take you 20 minutes to get to that tree and coming back. And it was just, it opened another sphere. Like, okay, that was way out of my comfort zone, but like getting through that day, I was like, this is like just being able now to talk. I would tell my girlfriend like, yo, you're talking too much, like go somewhere. But to be able just to be like, that was awesome, and just have like, I couldn't wait to have a conversation with her. It's opened up another stratosphere, and like being able to push you. Like, now that I'm down in Maryland, like it's out of my cover. I'm on the Eastern Shore. And it's pushing me outside of my stratosphere, like what I'm used to, and like being around the country. Like, these are country people. These dudes fish. These dudes hunt. These dudes, we're in Walmart. These dudes have guns. It's like, yo, I'm not used to this lifestyle, man. So like, and with all like the recent uprise of like, you know, the presidential election, and down there is Trump country. Like, I know where I'm at. I'm seeing the Confederate flags. I'm seeing the Trump stuff, and I'm seeing that stuff, and like, we've had a lot of racial incidents on campus where, like, last year we had, like, someone, like, writing, like, words on like, a certain wall where there's no camera pointing to it. And it was, like, kill niggers, bring Sandy Hook to SU, right? Oh. So that was on the walls, right? And, like, the campus didn't, like, attack it right then. Like, they kind of tried to hide it under, and it happened again and again. And it just kept getting worse and worse, right? So we felt uncomfortable. But, again, like, as a minority male, I'm sitting there, and I'm like, all right, we need to do something. So I'm hosting town halls. And they actually closed campus the next day, like, yo, no campus, no classes. We're going to host, like, different events on campus to kind of bring us together and talk, right? A lot of the students I'm seeing on Snapchat and stuff like that are taking, like, they're like, oh, I'm taking this as a mental day while they're at the bar. And they're making fun of it, right? Because it's a day off to go party and do whatever, right? And you could think about when you were in college how you would act, too. But seeing that they were so stuck in their own universe that they didn't think about how that made maybe their friend feel who was black or who was a minority, it hurt me to see that and to see those different things and, like, being in that leadership role. And I had a long conversation with an older gentleman who works for the university, and we did like a campus walk, a campus safety walk, to walk around the campus to make sure it's safe. There's no blind spots, so everyone feels safe when they're walking around. And he's an older white man. He probably was like 53. He just started working at the campus, and we're different on different wavelengths, everything. Totally. And we're just talking about the campus, and he's like, yo, do you actually feel safe on this campus? And I was like, I'm not gonna lie to you. Me, as who I am, I'm a big ass black dude. I'm not worried. I'm not scared of anyone here. Right. But now the people who I work with who are black women, do they walk on this campus at night? No, they get picked up by the university police and they drive them to where they have to deal with. So, and he was like, "Are you serious?" I'm like, "Yeah, like this is reality for us." Like, and I told him about some incidents I came into because I work in residence life, and I'm like in charge of like a building. I'm in charge of like the whole building, and like I told him about an incident I came into of like students disrespecting me, and because I didn't have a shirt that had said staff or anything like that. And I talked to the student, I'm like, yo, man, you can't do that. He disrespected me on another level to where, like, if we were in Philly or something, I said this to the staff, man. I was like, if we were in Philly or if we were home, it would have been another story. But the fact that I had to keep what I am and who I am, I had to, like, bring it back to earth, it made me see, like, that kid disrespected me because he looked at me as less than him. And I was like, that's what I deal with. That's what I have to deal with when I'm coming here. And, like, I'm out of my comfort zone. But the fact that he went out of his comfort zone to ask me these questions, he was down and talking, I was like, this is what matters. It's not hate versus hate. It's like, you have your own perspective of Trump, I have my perspective of who I vote for. But the fact that me and him talked for an hour and a half, just walking around campus, and we talked about these things, that's what matters to me. I was outside of my comfort zone, and I kept it real with him. He was outside of his comfort zone and kept it real with me. And that's where we just grew and we learned together. So now when I see him on campus, it's like, hey, what's going on, friend? And like we talk, and we like, I built a relationship with him to where like now he has a different perspective. And like we talked about like affirmative action. We talked about these things, and like he was questioning, he's like, well, like I brought up like white privilege. Like I actually hate the term white privilege. like I hate the word of it because it brings so much negativity to it. So when you're talking to someone who is white and you talk about white privilege, they automatically get defensive. Sure. As some may, like they can get defensive about it. So I'm like, what is another word we can use that still means white privilege but isn't white privilege because it won't bring that negative connotation with it. And we were talking about that stuff, and he was like, I don't believe in it. And I'm like, you shouldn't, because you don't know where have you gotten because of your privilege. Like, how would you know that? And we were just going through, and he was talking about, like, affirmative action. Like, well, isn't that your privilege? And I'm like, you're right. So when I applied to a job, if we have the same resumes, but because I'm a minority and I filled that quota and I get the job, I was like, it's owed to me. You owe me. You owe my family for all the time they couldn't. And he's like, so you recognize it. I was like, 100%. 100% I know I fit your quota. 100% I know I can get hired here because just because I'm a minority and I fit that, you need to hire me. But at the same time, I'm going to let my resume speak for itself. I'm going to let my work ethic speak for itself. But I'm going to fill that spot because you owe it to me. And then he would just like, man, it's probably the best conversation I've ever had with anyone. And being out of your comfort zone is so effective. It hurts you. Like it can make you cringe. But just being able to step out of your comfort zone and challenge any of your beliefs. Like all the beliefs I may have, you can challenge my beliefs, and then I go home and I'm like, I'm gonna deal with my beliefs and see what he said. And then like, okay, maybe I should move a different way. Like I'm thinking about this. Like I have a frat bro who's bisexual. Growing up, I was like, man, you're gay. If you're a guy, you're gay. Like if you get with guys, you're gay. And he like was like, no, I'm not gay. I'm not gay. Like I like girls as well. I'm bisexual. So like he challenged me, and I was like, wow, I haven't been challenged. I was like, you're right, bro. I'm sorry about that. And like he challenged your ways. As long as you're getting challenged and you're out of your comfort zone, that's life to me. That's what matters. That's where growth comes.
Exactly. You could almost argue that it almost enhances the quality of life and the outlook you have on life, because if you leave your comfort zone, you might learn a thing or two, and whatever you may learn, you might then view your whole world from a higher, different perspective. Whereas, like you said, like, oh, if you kiss boys, you're gay. Well, actually, if I let me go outside my comfort zone, maybe have a conversation and learn a thing or two, now I see it from this whole new perspective. I'm sorry. We can heal and move forward from a higher state of perspective. And then you could say, then the world is then changed and the world's better than it was. Do
you feel like your family, like, you know, growing up in like in Morristown, stuff like that, do you feel like your particular family like challenged your views, challenged to put you out of your comfort zone, like understanding like there's life outside of Morristown, like, you know what I mean?
So again, going on white privilege, if you looked at me and my family on paper, it's white privilege. We live in the upper class of this town. We have this, you know, beautiful home. We go on family vacations. Anything you kids want, great. But I'm also very grateful and fortunate where my mom's side of the family they are all in Philly, and it's, you know, it's like comes from like a lower income background. So I was almost raised to see both sides of that coin and see what life is and what it could be. So from a very young age, I was already super grateful and understanding that I am very fortunate, and I don't want to take it for granted because granted. There are kids in this town of Morristown. It's very privileged. There's lots of money here. The education is great. It's relatively very safe. The athletics are amazing. So, you know, there are a lot of kids who come from this town and kids that I know, and, you know, they let that privilege, they let that wealth kind of fuck them up in the long run, where it's like, oh, you know, my dad has $100 million. I don't really got to do shit with my life, so I'm just going to sit around and take dabs all day. Like, that's very real. I could do that if I wanted to. You know, I'm fortunate enough where from grandparents and other family, like I will have a nice chunk of inheritance, but I don't want to, I'm aware of that. I don't want to have to rely on that. I want to make my own waves. I want to kind of carve my own path. Still grateful for all the experiences because it's definitely helped me get to where I am. And my parents they've always supported me and built me up. But I also don't just want to suck off the teat my whole life. Like I want to actually, because I could if I wanted to, but I don't. I want to make my own way because I've seen what that does to people. There's a kid who came from this town. He was a few years older than us. His dad, you know, multi-millionaire entrepreneur. This kid never really decided to make anything of his life. He died from an overdose because he just had that.
That shit's real.
That's like ultimate privilege, where it's like you just sit around and do drugs all day. You don't got and you have all your money problems are solved. So I've definitely been aware of that and been able to see it from different sides, and that's why I'm also grateful for my psychedelic experiences, because it also kind of helps me realize, you know, the importance of following your truth and speaking your truth and doing what you want to do and figuring out what I was put here to do. So in that regard, I'm almost able to kind of see the privilege from a higher perspective and not almost let it blindly control my life.
So like, That's so important. Like, you understand a dollar. Like, you don't like I think that's the biggest key of everything you said. Like, you understand like where you're at, the privilege that you have, and recognizing that privilege. That's so important. Yeah. Because there's so many like evil people out there that like kind of lose sight of like, you don't have to have this.
Yeah.
Like, you know what I mean? Like, this isn't given. And even like me, like I could definitely say like I was very angry of like my like experience and like what I was going through. I was just so angry. I was like, yo, man, like, why is my life like this? Like, this is not fair. Like, I'm seeing a kid. I'm going to Morristown schools. I'm seeing kids, like a girl I date. My mom's pulling up in a van that's barely working. And this girl's getting picked up in a Ferrari. Yeah. And I'm like, yo, what is like, why? And I remember going home. I'm really angry. My mom's like, what's wrong? Nothing. Yeah. And as a kid, you don't understand. Like, you're not really putting two and two together. Like, that's why I'm angry. But really, that's why I was angry. Yeah. Like, I'm having to get picked up and I'm going to Philly. I'm living at home and I'm not eating the same food. I'm not living the same life that they're living. And like, it made me grateful. Yeah. Like, that's really like the 100%. Same way you're grateful. Like, we have to understand to be grateful for what we have. Yes. And that's where it's just like I had to recognize within myself, like, yo, I'm grateful just to be alive. I'm grateful for legs to move. I have privilege. I'm privileged to walk. I'm privileged to still be breathing right now. Yes. I'm privileged to be living in COVID and still be alive and not have, knock on wood to this day, like family that hasn't been too greatly affected by COVID. You know what I mean? Like, yo, me and my girlfriend, we live in the house where like her grandfather lives with us. He's 104. Whoa. And like, this dude, think about the stuff he saw. Yeah. And, like, this dude is strong. Like, he fights with me, bro. Like, we fight with each other. And, like, he's a funny guy. And, like, you know what I mean? So it's, like, that's privilege to still have those people around me. That's privilege to still have this. Man. So it's, like, it's really good. It's great to hear, like, there's still people who are out there who come from affluent, like, backgrounds, but still recognize, like, humanity at the end of the day. Yeah. It's all about humanity. And that's some youngest, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course, dude. It's important. We can't. That's what's rough about today is we're so divided, whether it be by social class or race or gender or sexual preference. Like, at the end of the day, bro, we're all just human beings trying to do the best we can on this planet while we're here, trying to make the world better.
It can get so frustrating, man. Like, especially, during this election, my girlfriend she was like crying every day, and I'm just like, and like I think I was the hardest one. Like, yo, like this kind of been my reality for a while, so I'm kind of like I know what to expect. But this is like for her, like she's an engineer. This is her first time working in like the real world, being around a lot of like high class people and seeing like we work together. But you look at your politics look at me differently, so now I look at you differently, and it's like we're dealing with that. We're dealing with like. Now, I'm scared to ask you who you voted for because I don't want to lose you as a friend.
I didn't vote, just so you know.
No, that's all good. It's all good. But like, no, I'm not talking about you in particular, but like friends, like you know what I mean. Yeah. Like those friends that I've lost because I'm like, yo, are you serious? Like we went to the same high school, we've did things together. Like you see where we come from, and like you voted for this man. Like I'm not going at your votes, but I want to see why. Right. Where'd you lose? Like where we come from? Like, you know what I mean? Like we're still in the same background, so it's like it was hard for me to. Now going forward to be like, oh, I hope this man doesn't look at me different. I hope this woman doesn't look at me differently. And going into certain places. And like even the other week I was in Morristown, I went to a store and like this guy was just looking at me and my girlfriend weird. And like I left and I was like, oh, I gotta go back in. I want to try that on. And she's like, yeah, no, we're not going. Like, they're already looking at us weird. I was like, man, fuck that. And I went back in the store. I tried that shit on. I wasn't buying it because I was like I tried stuff at Amazon. Like Amazon's a big. My girlfriend, she's an environmentalist, so she hates Amazon. She hates this stuff, right? So we try to do a lot of our buying like in small stores. So like we don't do it. So I go in the store. Something was like $8. I go on Amazon at $60. I'm like, fuck. Like no, like I gotta shop. I'm sorry. Like and she was like yelling at me. I'm like, dude, I tried. And it doesn't help that guy was an asshole too. So but yeah, that's just the way that's the way it went for us in that sense. Yeah, it's so this day we like the days we live in. I think. I'm sure it was pretty much always like this for a lot of the people in my family, stuff like that. But like now that I'm in that boot, I'm like, is this really how the world really is? Like, is it really like? It's just it kind of taxes you. Like if you take the time to like continue to watch the news and continue to like be involved in one fight for change, it's so taxing on your mental and
it really is, man. It really is because. That's why I try to stay away from watching the news. Again, going back to your diet and what you consume. If you are only consuming the news, then you're walking, because the news, what rubs me the wrong way is the media is trying to tell you how to think and act and feel. So, and I felt it during the election, dude, the 2 days, Monday, Tuesday, or even Wednesday, watching the news, I felt very anxious. I felt very short-tempered. I felt very bothered. And it's because I was letting all this fear energy into me that was being fed to me from this. And that's just a shame that that's the narrative that's being played. Because at the end of the day, regardless of who's president or who's voting for who, like, we're all on the same team. We're all on Team Human. We're all on Team Earth. Yeah. And that's why, things like politics and religion and sometimes, race and all that, like, we can't let that divide us. And the beautiful thing about all this upheaval and all this crazy shit that's going on is, like, the earth is shifting. We're shifting into a higher vibration, if you will, a new age, if you will, where people like us and who want to spread love and bring everyone together, like, it's almost like our time to shine, really. Like, we're next up at bat. Yeah. So if anything, that's really exciting to see is, where we're going to be at in the next years to come and the new generations. It's, it's finally up to us, man. It's a great responsibility, and it can definitely stress you the fuck out when you look at the world and you're like, oh, fuck, all this craziness is going on. What about the people in Africa? And what about, motherfuckers in Flint still don't have clean water? Like, oh, God, But I think if you just focus on being the best version of yourself and spreading love and kindness and light into the world, then slowly we'll start to see things change.
I think it starts in, like, I think we think too much upscale of, like, we have to make change for the whole world. Yes. I think if it boils down to, like, your circle, if we're making change in our little community that we live in, whether that's your tribe of who you live with at home, or if it's your tribe of, like, in the community, and then it spreads, and it begins to spread. But if everyone's doing that in their communities, it kind of creates change all around. And, like, that's where it begins. And, like, it's hard to, like, want to just start at a small level, like a microcosm thing, but, like, that's where your change truly happens. It begins, like, when people talk about, like, politics, it begins with where you vote in your town, who you vote for in your town. Then you go up, then you move up, then you move up. And, like, that's the change that occurs. But, of course, all these people that voted in this presidential election won't vote for their mayor when it comes time. Right. You know what I mean? Right. So it's, like, that's, like, that affects your immediate placement. And, like, my girlfriend's sister who lives in Long Island, who used to live in Long Island, she firsthand, like, there was, like, a new law that, like, they were trying to get passed where, like, like, when you live in an apartment, like a top apartment, bottom, like, they were, like, trying to get rid of some law that, like, would affect, like, if she could actually still live there. And the law got passed, she couldn't live there anymore. She was like, I'm not paying rent. I was paying cheap rent and everything like that, and she moved back home. So it's, like, these things directly affect us, but it has to start within us. It has to start here. It has to start at the bottom level. And I can't wait to see, like, what is, like, when I do get to that point of, like, being a future president of a university, and, like, what I'm able to do for these kids that come who are first-generational students, who are the first in their family to actually go to college, who are the first to actually go outside their comfort zone, what can I provide for them? Like, the current president of our university was a first-generation student. Like, he was the first person to ever go to college in his family. Wow. And, like, the perspectives that he has was amazing. Like, he has his own business. Like, he does a hot sauce thing. He allows students to work for his business. And he's like, you're going to learn, like, watch, because it just started. Yeah. Like, you're going to watch a business grow where I can sell this hot sauce. Oh, that's awesome. You're picking the peppers. Wow. You're making the bottles like that. So he was allowing, like, a team, like, he signed, like, I signed up to be on the team. And, like, we were actually there, like, helping him make this hot sauce. So, like, you're seeing a business and what it takes to run a business firsthand. Like, he's providing those for you. And it's like, this is the president of university. You know what I mean? So seeing that where he came from and where he is now, only made me shoot for that now. Now I can shoot for that. And, like, a lot of the kids from our communities aren't seeing that. They're not seeing, like, that player. They're seeing that star football player that comes to their town in a Rolls Royce. Yeah. They're seeing that rapper come through in a Rolls Royce. They're not seeing that, you could be working for a university, or you can work for this company, making a lot of money and move out of your community and help your community at the same time. And, like, now that I saw that you can be this, now I want to become that. Yeah. So, like, it's just what is available to them. These kids aren't seeing that, especially now with COVID. Yeah. You're living at home. They're all home. They don't even get to go to school. Imagine how many students, like, the only meals they get is at school, and now they're home all the time. Yeah. There's so, like, definitely going to be some kind of study, like, 20 years from now to see the effects of these kids. But, to bring it back, I think it is important. If you want to affect the macro, you have to start with the micro. If you want to affect change and change in the world, first you have to change yourself. And surround yourself with people who want to do the same things and who are on a similar vibration, and you all help and you bring each other up, and then therefore it just exponentially grows, and that's how you affect the macro, and that's how real world change is made. Yeah, I 100% agree with you, man. Like, I can't wait to see what's next, that's for sure.
Me too, brother.
Wait to see what's next, man.
Me too.
That's awesome.
Let's wrap this up.
Of course.
All right.
Sounds good.
All right, Malik.
I appreciate it, bro. Thank you so much for having me, man. Thanks
for being on.
Of course.
Bye, everybody.
Adios. Thanks, bro. That's awesome.